Welcome to today's episode, the podcast where we discuss the most recent installments of a different series every show. On Sunday, The Institute came out. That's a show on MGM Plus based on the Stephen King 2019 book with the same name. I haven't read that one. I hear it's long, but I didn't want any preconceived notion of the storyline. I've noticed that for the last few that we've done, Better Sister and so on, like even if it abides by what the writer wanted originally, I still end up not liking the series as much. So I just wanted to go in fresh with one. 14-year-old is set for MIT, and then he gets kidnapped and dropped in the institution, which after 2 episodes, I can fairly say that it's not really an institution. It's more like a detention center because there's only like 6 kids at one time.
But it's strange because that seems to be the way, at least with superhero TV shows now. Even in Heroes, they always take young kids or people with powers and then stick them in a room just with 4 concrete walls.
Remind me in Heroes. What do you mean? Are you talking about season 2 when they
Yes.
stuck Peter Petrelli? That was less about being a kid. That was more about just trying to keep a hold of his powers.
But think about it, Stranger Things, Logan, the New Mutants, Gen V, even Akira has
Gen
something
V,
like that.
again, that was a recruitment thing. They chose to go there. It was like video game high school. The kids wanted to go to that school. There are definitely a lot of versions, like with Stranger Things, where people are kidnapped and then they're tested on.
Right.
That's been a trope in sci-fi forever. And I do have some comparisons along those lines. In fact, let me read you the description for one of these shows. Ready?
Yeah.
Rebellious teen awakens one morning in a totally unfamiliar surrounding with no memory of how he got there. He learns that he is now a student at this school that focuses on helping students develop their unique abilities. Okay, now I'm going to read you the Institute's summary. Ready?
Okay.
Teen genius wakes up in a strange place full of children who got there the same way he did and who all, like him, possess unusual abilities. Do they sound familiar? They're
sound
about
the same.
15 years apart. One was on Cartoon Network called Tower Prep, and it was about this guy named Ian Archer, and it was the most bad CGI, shoestring budget, only lasted 1 season, and it was definitely geared towards, I don't know, 12-year-old audience. Well, The Institute feels like it's definitely supposed to be in the zeitgeist of anyone, adults even watching. And I guess that's partially because Ben Barnes' storyline has nothing to do with what's going on with these teen kids. But it feels like this show does have a lot more going into it money-wise and just effort. I mean, they've got Mary Louise Parker. You have
From Weeds. Yeah.
Yeah, you've got a ton of special effects. You have, I guess, Stephen King's book to base it off of. A Tower Prep, I don't think it may have been based off a series, but I didn't think so.
Well, talking about the cast, you said Ben Barnes, Mary Louise Parker. Do you know who the main character is? Luke Ellis. I'll give you a hint.
I know he's the chosen one, and that's why it's funny that they named him Luke.
His real name is Joe Freeman.
Yeah, no, Morgan Freeman's? No, just kidding. Martin Freeman's son or something?
Yes, Martin Freeman's son. Also, his mom is Amanda Abington, Marion Sherlock, and Simon Pegg is his godfather.
You said a lot there, and it all sounded interesting, but that's crazy, I guess. So he's got nepotism galore, and
it's his first role he's ever done.
Is he actually 14?
No, he's 18 in real life.
Right.
It's funny because in the book, they aged up all the kids, but he was still playing 4 years younger.
That makes sense. Even in it, they aged up the kids, I think. But Luke's character is for sure the main character of the whole entire story. We're seeing it through his eyes. He's a genius. You would wonder if he's just about to be accepted into MIT at 14, why he hasn't looked more into his own supernatural abilities, because he definitely knows when he gets agitated or really emotional about something,
Right.
that objects start to move around him.
Telekinesis.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
And so you would think if you're a genius, you would have had a little bit of more effort towards figuring that out rather than having to be kidnapped and then told about it. Because it seems like when they start testing him, he's kind of omitted it. He's like, oh, it only happens every once in a while and I don't really care about it. Dude, you are a superhero. What is that for real?
Well, from the small things I've seen of the show, it seems like all their powers are kind of nerfed, or at least they're not really that powerful yet. Right?
As kids, they don't have that much access. However, in the second episode, there's a 12-year-old who's introduced. His name is Avery. We don't get to see him other than the very end of that second episode, which Kalisha, who is also a telepath, is able to tell right off the bat that this person is super powerful, might be the real chosen one, and called him the Michael Jordan of the telepath abilities.
Wait, so now there's a question as to if Luke is even like the
No,
real,
so like Luke is special because he's smart.
right?
So even with as his abilities get better, that plus his smartness will make him like Batman. So that's what they're more interested in. And that's why there's two separate projects that are going on in the Institute. One is by Miss Sigsbee, who is supposedly the leader of everything. She is the Harmony Cobell of The Office from
Right.
Severance. She's also like Julia Louise Dreyfus's character in Thunderbolts. Like if you merge those two, Boss Lady,
It's
like
very
that is
interesting.
that is who she is.
It's interesting what they do with her character because she's the main villain in the book.
Okay. No,
Like
so they make her a
she's
little bit more, I guess, nice?
Yes, but she is like in the book, she's not given much backstory. Her whole entire characterization is just kind of abusing these kids, and then they completely like switched her around when it came to the TV
I wouldn't say
series.
completely, but like, so Luke gets there in the first episode and he's being watched. He knows he's being watched. Then he gets dragged in front of her. She says, "You follow the rules and your time here will be short," which seems to be true because most kids only stay there for a couple weeks. Again, feels more like a detention than an institute. It's not like they're learning classes and stuff like that. It's most just testing for 14 days, seeing if they can amp up the powers. And then they go from the front half of the school to the back half of the school where apparently they spend the last part of their stay there and then they get to go home. Now, Luke is highly skeptical whether or not he actually will be able to go home, which makes sense, you know. Like any kid there is who's just been kidnapped and their parents not really told much about it. Like, why would you believe them?
So the
But
kidnapping, sorry.
Miss Sigsbee then is shown later on in the episode. She's burning herself. She seems like a weird lady. She was supposed to be a third grade teacher or something like that. That's what she tells her mom. And she also is under the impression that these kids move on to the back half and then like go work somewhere else. But she's not going for this other program, which the doctor and this guy who's like the muscle there, which was played by the guy from Death in Supernatural, Mr. Stackhouse,
Yeah.
they seem more geared towards the evil intent on trying to move these kids toward a more rigorous program. And they have identified Luke to go into that program. And we don't know what any of that means. There's a lot of mystery here.
It's funny because with Stackhouse, who's played by Julian Richings, in the book, he's supposed to be very big and he's just supposed to be incredibly muscular. So
Yeah.
it makes me wonder why they necessarily casted Julian Richings.
Because he's
to play
intimidating
him.
in a completely different way. You've seen it as Death in Supernatural. He only has to stare at you and he will make a point, even though he's as skinny as a string bean. Like, so I have no problem with that change. He also is in control of the security team that's out there kidnapping kids, and he is spying on his own team just to make sure that they're not having cold feet about stealing children away from their parents.
So from what I saw, the first scene is like Luke. He's supposed to be taking a test, and I assume that they're just tracking these kids, and then when they fall asleep, like it gets like knocking
So
them
remember,
out.
he's like getting into MIT. So I think that was like their equivalent of an SAT or something that's just college geared. Another proof that he is uber exceptional. He finishes the test first. All the kids are impressed. And then that night, he tells his parents that, or maybe it's nights later, he tells his parents the good news that the counselor wants to send him to MIT. And the reason why the Institute has to pick him up that night is because if he does get sent to MIT, then there are going to be articles written about him because not a lot of kids at 14 get there. Now, there are some, but there's not a lot.
It reminds me a lot of the Mysterious Benedict Society,
Yes.
where it was like I remember the main character, even though that was a kids show, was supposed to take a test, but it was like there was even a test within a test that like really smart kids still had to pass, like it was secretive.
No, but the first test that we see at the very beginning is a very normal
right.
high school test. He was just taking it probably younger than most of those other kids were. It was also the time where I thought, like, oh, this actually does look like an institute. You have a lot of children here, versus later on when you're dealing with, I don't know, like 4 kids. One just graduated. You had Kalisha, who I think is Luke's not love interest because she likes Nick. Nick is like the oldest one there, and he's also the most skeptical. He's
But
looking
doesn't
to
she?
escape. I just want to go through the characters here. George is the most he looks like he's the closest to the next graduation. Iris we see graduating in the second episode, the beginning, when they throw a little party at the beginning of the day, everybody gets cake. That's another thing about the Institute is that they treat them, they're able to drink there, they're able to smoke there if they want. Basically, the kids can do as they wish, as long as they've gotten enough dots, or not dots, credits, whatever they use for that in order to pay for the vending machine benefits. Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic.
What I
But
was gonna
yeah,
ask was that Kalisha, though. I know that you said that she was interested in someone else, but like the first scene,
she
she
does. She kisses.
kisses Nick like out of nowhere, right?
I think she's I. So she's a telepath. And so she's sensing something. She's also a teenager, and maybe she just likes boys. And so she's just kissing whoever comes across. She doesn't kiss Avery when he shows up because, again, he's only 12 years old. Iris, who I thought after the first episode was going to be a main character, Iris and George, I think that they're just going to be slowly graduated. And then I think the main three that we're going to be looking at is Luke, Nick, and Kalisha. I think
So
those.
kind of the Harry, Ron, and Hermione of the group, right?
Yeah, I think Nick might have something bad happen to him because right now he's the oldest. He seems the most hell bent on getting out of there. And I think that they're not going to want to mess with Luke because they see him as this important person for the later programming, someone that they could sell for a lot of money. We get a little bit of Stackhouse and the Dr. Hendricks, right?
Right.
They are the ones plotting against Miss Sigsbee. They want to take Luke after he's developed his abilities a little bit more and take him away from uh, whatever plan the institute has, because there are different institutes around the world. This is the way they make it sound like, and some of them have this really rigorous program, and some of them don't. This one doesn't, and so I guess Miss Sigsbee would be against what Stackhouse and Hendricks are plotting.
So the institute that we see isn't the only institute. You're
Right.
saying that they have just like these places that they kidnap kids with special
In the
abilities?
world it's setting up, from what I get in the first two episodes, it seems as if, yeah, because it's a small town and it's kind of hidden in the forest, and there's like all these signs that say like biohazard around, and there are even guards stationed there in case like a family might accidentally drive up there one day and see something that they shouldn't, because they literally have the kids caged in, like almost a juvie. If anybody were to get too close, they might see that and question why there are kids at a biohazard site, you know? So it's the way that I assume that Stephen King was setting it up was that like all over the US, because there's so many just random small towns and rural areas that they could be and no one would know, be the wiser.
Well, it's interesting because you haven't talked about really Tim that much,
Yes.
but from what I understand, they made it one location. I think in the book, Tim's storyline takes place in South Carolina, and this takes place in Maine, and here they just made it Maine.
That's
Like,
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah. So Tim rides in. He's not local to Maine. What happens is he's trying to get away from his past. He shot a kid. He was an officer, but the kid had like a gun. He was drunk at the time he shot him, though. So he kind of was like dishonorable or honorably discharged, but kind of just to get him off the force. And then now that he's like resolved his drinking problems, he's trying to make a new life for himself. He's moved to Maine and he's become like a key lock person, which just means he goes around at night and he checks the keys at places.
Right.
Keys make a big deal, or appearances in this. Like they talk about keys a lot, even in the Institute storyline. And so I think it's going to come back to that because it's like this ancient thing. And so I wonder how far the Institute goes back. Also, because Tim runs across this homeless lady who clearly has telepathic abilities, but she's also crazy. So she's very paranoid that everybody's an alien. At the same time, she's telling him things that only his mom knew. So I'm wondering if she used to work at the Institute or be in the Institute as a child back in the day.
Huh.
But that would mean that that thing has been going on for 60 years, maybe more. Uh, I have a lot of questions about the show, but Tim's storyline so far has consisted of him walking around the town, trying to make friends with the cops, trying to make friends with the local citizens. And then in the second episode, he makes friends with this convenience store guy. And within 3 minutes, this guy's exposited like his entire backstory. He's like, I was going to be this genius in a different country in economics or something. As soon as Tim leaves the store, that's when it gets robbed. And and the guy gets shot. Tim runs in and he chases off the robbers without a gun and grabs a ton of Vaseline. The guy is bleeding out from his gut. Like it is, he would not last 5 minutes, rather than 20 minutes that it takes for the ambulance to get there
Right.
and save him. And what he does is he does a life hack. He just takes as much Vaseline as he can and he starts plugging the bullet wound.
Oh, God.
I didn't know that you could do that. I don't think you actually can do that. But then he takes some diapers and he sticks it on there, and the guy's fine. So, so yeah, Tim's storyline so far, I'm sure it's going to merge into the Institute once he figures it out that it's in the forest, and he's going to be like the one sole cop trying to break in, like Stranger Things, like David Harbour's character. But up until then, it's just going to be him hanging out around town.
It's funny because what attracted Ben Barnes to the role is the fact that he's a good guy, and he wanted to play a good guy again because he's been playing so many bad guys in like TV shows and movies.
Yeah,
But
no, Punisher, he was a bad guy, and he was also sort of a cop adjacent. He was an authority
right.
figure. He was FBI, I think.
But also, Tim in the book, he only shows up at the very beginning and very ending, so they had to expand his story a lot. And from what I understand, I think in the he's given like a ride in the first episode, right? By
Yeah,
a person.
so I said he was escaping his past, so he I think she wanted him to move heavy boxes for him or for her, and then by the time she took him to Maine, he was like, "This is a good place to hang out."
One of the changes that I found funny was that he's actually given 2 rides in the book by a male farmer and then the second one by a female librarian. But I think that in the show, it's a female librarian who's dressed up like a farmer and
Yeah,
it's only 1 ride.
yeah, they kind of merged that character for sure. She also is like, "I've got 70 boxes in the back," and then they showed the back, and it's got like I don't know 10 boxes. Is pretty funny. It's also weird. There's a few things that go on in the Institute that I want to point out that like are kind of my cons. For instance, they're trying to escape. Right
Yeah.
off the bat, Nick has convinced Luke that they have to get out of there, and Luke says the smartest way to do that would be find someone on the inside to help us escape.
Yeah.
Problem is, there's only like 5 employees to choose from, and most of them have already shown. Like Hendricks, the doctor, he's got no moral code. Stackhouse is the guy in charge of security. He's not turning. In fact, he's already turned on one of his own security members and had her killed when she showed that she wanted to go to the press. He had posed someone to date her who was actually played by the girl from Gossip Girl. So I recognized her and I was like, this is weird that she's playing such a small part. So I wasn't surprised when she turned around and showed she was also working for the Institute, killed the person that was going to out the Institute, and now is going to take her duties as the person who kidnaps the kids. So where am I going? Okay, so none of them are going to be helpful. Tony is just an ass. He's kind of not the muscle, but he does like all the small work. I guess he injects the kids. He puts the little earring on them that tracks them or what have you.
Right.
And so like the only person that they could sort of get to was this lady who like moves them from room to room. And I think in the second episode they like skip over a scene where they actually recruit her because the next thing we know, she has helped them a little bit, and they refer to it in their last conversation. Because she tells them, I think, where all the blind spots in the cameras are.
So, okay.
But
Yeah,
we
right.
never actually see her doing that. So I was a little unclear there, but that's like their main plan. And my question is like, they know that there's audio devices everywhere, that there's visual devices, but they still talk about the escape plan nearly everywhere in campus. Like they act as if no one's ever watching them. And it reminded me of that movie where the guy was he just assumed his apartment wasn't bugged in like Russia or something like
Right.
that. But it just goes back to the fact that he's a super genius and yet supposedly thinks he can just talk wherever and no one's going to pick up on it.
Well, couldn't some of that be attributed to the fact that he is a kid, though? Like, I feel like that's the
You
reason
can't
why
have it
they
both
made him
ways
like
in
that.
your show. You can't have him shown to be like Sherlock Holmes, noting why people, because they outfit their rooms to look exactly like they do at their houses.
Right.
And he's psychoanalyzed that already and realized it's less to make them comfortable, more to show how powerful this institution is. And so, like, if he can see the subtlety and stuff like that, he should be able to pick up on things like, okay, we can only talk about it in this one specific place. Otherwise, we don't say a thing. In fact, we make it seem like, and also going through one of the staff that early also seems very suspicious.
So that explains why Benjamin Cavill said that this series was a lot like The Great Escape. Because really, it seems like it's almost even like Prison Break, where they're going to probably try to actually do the escape near the end of the season.
Right. But they have a set timeline. So again, it would be something if it's like, you're going to be here for 6 months. And they're like, okay, I'm going to escape in that time. They're given a couple days. Like it's like 2 weeks and then you're out. And the weird thing about Iris's thing, I don't know if you're supposed to read into this, but she graduates and then Nick has this line where they're out playing basketball because Luke loves basketball, and he says, "Yeah, these furnaces or whatever, these like nuke plants that are next to us, they always have these fumes as soon as someone graduates." Now, if you've learned anything about World War II, that would freak the hell out of you
Yeah,
because
probably, yeah.
but like, why would you train up a kid, amp their powers, and then like kill them right off the bat? Like, it just, I'm not exactly sure what's happening with that. It might be like a Gelfling situation where they're just like then taking their power away from them. It's weird. I have a lot of questions about what is going on in this show. The biggest one being what happens to the kids after they leave the front half, but also it's hinted that Luke's parents woke up when he was being kidnapped. We don't see this. Luke has already passed out, but that something might have happened to them. So maybe they did die. There's also hints, and that was part of the reason why the Stackhouse's like henchman was turning because of some incident that had occurred. There's also these things called dots. So when they're testing the kids and giving them this amp juice, which is kind of like phasing them out, they're going to start seeing these weird dots. And I don't know what that means yet. We haven't seen it through Luke's eyes yet. We do see him using his ability throughout the series, and it's getting a little better, his telekinesis. Why are the counselors such dicks? If they were really trying to help these kids and they were really trying to like improve their, why are they being so like Tony just goes up and slaps him? I guess because they know that the kids are going to be rambunctious or like upset. They realize they have to be strict with them. But at the same time, I don't know. They just seem evil.
The more and more
Most of
you
them
talk
seem
about
evil.
it, it just seems like Level 16, that
Yes.
film with, like, all the girls, but, like, it seemed like every single adult there, because they 'cause they're
Well,
also stuck in a
100%.
building, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, it's 100%. The level 16 is a great metaphor for this. And then how are the kids saving the world? So that's like their precedence for saying, this is why we do everything we do. You guys are going to then go on and save the world. But how? And also, they say, we're going to wipe your minds at the end of it, and then you'll just go back home. It just doesn't
It
make
seems
sense, doesn't
backwards.
compute.
Yeah, right.
Why would they save the world and then not keep their abilities at that highlighted state so that less kids have to be then recruited? So when you see Mary Louise Parker later on hurting herself and you're trying to like figure out why, she's only in charge of one institute. She wants more kids at that institute. She also has no idea of the corruption going on in her own staff. And like, you don't feel bad for her, but you feel like maybe she's the lesser of the two evils that are out there. Who's in charge of her? Like, we see this guy who's holding pearls, probably a religious sector of some sort, like that's in charge of like, I guess, facilitating what's going on in the facilities. Like, you get more kids if you do better, and like that type of
Do
thing.
we get anything that's going to say that they're going to show that, like, who the head, like,
Yeah.
ringmaster is?
Well, I don't know if that guy is the guy, the religious dude is the head of the
I
whole
know, but I'm
entire
saying,
precinct either.
does the show make it seem like you're going to get that answer?
Answers. I don't know. This has like an under the dome lost feel to it where we're going to get a lot of questions, not necessarily going to figure out everything, but because you are following mostly Luke's character, I would feel like his journey would have to have a conclusive end if it's based on the book.
Well, Jack Bender, it's funny because he directed most of Mr. Mercedes, some episodes of The Sopranos, but also did a lot of Lost, including directing the finale,
Mhm.
for that, and he
Yeah, but
directed this whole
directing the
series.
finale and writing the finale are two very different things.
Well, it's interesting because David E. Kelley, back when the book came out, was attached. He was supposed to write and executively produce this TV
That would have
series,
been cool.
and then he ended up being dropped. They changed production companies, so they got Benjamin Cavill, who wrote for Justified, including the finale of Justified and some of the best episodes of that. Homeland, he wrote one episode called Better Call Saul. Found that funny. Sneaky Pete, Godfather of Harlem, but he created The Stand, SEAL Team, and now this.
He created the Stand, the Stephen King
Yes.
series. That wasn't that great, was it?
No, but that shows you how he kinda has an in with Stephen King.
Did you ever finish that?
No, I did not.
Okay, and it had one of the Skarsgårds, right?
Yeah, and it also, like, had, like, a 5.7 on IMDb.
Mhm.
But I think, at least from what I've seen of this TV show, it seems better than that.
Yeah, it's so far so good. Again, a lot of my cons have to do with just like the logic of there being a super genius or the weird Vaseline save. Why is everybody a dick? Like that type of thing. And I will be more critical, I think, as the escape plan establishes itself. But so far, it's in that like early stages of a YA adventure. You got also the half of Ben Barnes' life where he's just checking things out, and right now that's fine. Like Ben Barnes is a cool guy to watch move around Westworld. It was fun to see him in the T-Mobile ads Punisher. So like that yeah.
He also released a debut album this year, Where the Light Gets In, back in January, so he's a singer.
Yeah, I don't need to hear that.
Whose storyline do you like more, Tim or Luke's at this point?
Oh, Luke for sure, because like stuff is actually happening. But I'm saying that Ben Barnes, once he finds out about the Institute, could be the hero of the day. We don't know.
What would you give the show out of 10?
It's not obnoxiously crazy like it could have been. And it is a little bit of a shift away from what I feel like Stephen King, who's obsessed with murder, likes to do. I'm like not as big a fan on his murder mysteries as I do his sci-fi stuff. So I will give this a 7 out of 10, a tentative 7 out of 10, and I will continue to watch the show.
Oh, okay. It's 8 episodes, and they shot in Nova Scotia. Do you remember what show we did
There's a
recently?
lot of Canadian actors here, yeah.
Do you remember what show we did recently that was also shot in Nova Scotia?
Yeah, if you give me like 10 minutes, I'd be able to come up with it.
It was We Were Liars. But the
Okay,
show
that's right.
has pretty good reviews also, 71% on Rotten Tomatoes, 6.8 on IMDb. And the Daily Beast called the mood of the series eerie and said that the show was an efficiently structured and thankfully self-contained affair.
Right, and the intro is even pretty, because we are actually seeing things that are happening in the intro by episode 2, like the vending machine stuff, the token coming back out, because as George's power gets better, he is more likely to go to the back half, but at the same time, he's making the most of it while he's still in the front half, and he's just stealing as many treats as he possibly can. So that was cool. Kids would do that.
Yeah, and I know also that they said it was going to be a limited series, but Cavell hinted that they might make a second season. And I'll end it with this. Do you want to take a guess as to how many Stephen King adaptations are currently in development?
10.
Over 30.
Okay, that's not a surprise. I mean, the guy just writes. I do want to compare it to a couple other things. I know we already said Stranger Things. I want to throw in The Passage, which was also about one of the guards of like this weird, I don't want to get into it too much, but like, I think they did make a TV show out of it, right?
Yeah.
Where it was like this facility and he was about to kidnap a girl, or he did kidnap a girl, but then he tried to like return her or something. And so he got a conscience, and it reminded me a lot of this series, School Spirits, because in that weird way, there were only like 6 kids who were continually talking to each other.
Right. They were ghosts, but I understand.
They were
what you're
ghosts,
saying, yeah.
but they were special. And they sort of had telekinesis. Couldn't they move objects?
Yep.
So that's in line with this. The way that they talk about telekinesis and telepathy is that they're like connected, and that maybe even someone might get both powers. And I'm curious if that's going to end up being Luke or not, or if that's part of what they're talking about. That's it for me, though. Thanks for and Maze Runner, maybe.
Maze Runner, how so?
I mean, isn't the journey of Maze Runner like he wakes up, he doesn't know how he got there, and suddenly he's surrounded by a bunch of other kids, and they have to like find their way out?
Yeah, and they are like in a constricted area, like a dome. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.